Ilu hotzianu mitzrayim, if God took us out of Egypt, says the Dayenu. V'lo asa b'hem shvatim, but he didn't do any miracles with the Egyptians. He just took us out. That would have been Dayenu. In other words, it's not that there's just a whole story that has no texture to it. We went out of Egypt, there were a lot of miracles, and we went to Sinai, and we got to Israel, and that's the way it is. But rather, let's reflect on each point. Just the Exodus itself would have been enough. Just the miracles would have been enough. Just the miracles against their gods to show that their gods, the god of the Nile, the god of the sheep, is nothing, that would have been enough. But then he killed their firstborn as well. Showed that they were powerless. If he had not given us their money, it would have been enough. If he just gave us their money. Each step to appreciate the perspective. If we think sometimes, what are you thankful about? What are you thankful? Here we are today, it's Tuesday morning. What are we thankful about? Oh, you say, well, I'm thankful, I have a nice life, things are good, I'm okay. Is that enough? Do we have the itemized list? Do we have perspective on each and everything as Dayenu would want us to have? The 15 steps of our happiness. Oh, there are challenges. There's plenty of things yet to come. Next year we'll really be free. We're not there yet. But what are the 15 things that I'm thankful for today? Can we separate out and realize how thankful we are for our families? Can we separate out how we're thankful for our children, thankful for our parents, thankful for our health? Can we separate out how we're thankful that we have bread to eat? There are people in Sudan and other places where they don't. Can we be thankful that many of us, thank God, live beyond subsistence and have some luxuries in life? Can we be thankful for the country we live in? Can we be thankful for the land of Israel and its status today as an independent state? Each aspect of our thankfulness needs to be spelled out. Otherwise, we haven't gained perspective. We haven't really turned to see. We haven't really gotten out of Egypt, where there was utter confusion. Egypt, where they couldn't hear. Egypt, where they couldn't reflect. They couldn't even think. Time of Pesach, in some ways, is like the Birkat HaGomel. It's a Birkat HaGomel. Sometimes a person, God forbid, gets into a car accident. They go into a plane where they traverse the seas. In the olden days, someone somehow escaped the desert, got out of captivity. We look forward one day, maybe Gilad Shalit will get out of captivity. And at that point, when you get out of these situations, perhaps you had an extended illness and you became healed. At that point, we know we come to the shul, we come to the synagogue, or you gather 10 Jews together, and you say, Hagomel lachayavim tovot, the one who granted to one who maybe didn't deserve it, and he granted good things. Shegmalani kol tov, that God has given me all kinds of good things, not just this, not just that I was healed, not just that I went out of the airplane, I came out okay, but he gave me all kinds of good things. In many ways, these 4 things for which we thank God at the Birkat HaGomel and that blessing of thanksgiving apply on Pesach as well. Did we get out of captivity? Sure did. In Egypt we were captive. Did we cross the sea, cross through the waters, cross through an inhospitable environment, such as an airplane or a boat? Sure did. Cross through the sea, the splitting of the sea. Did we traverse the desert? Absolutely did, as the Jews wandered for 40 years. Were we sick in the sense that we were spiritually and physically impoverished? We hardly had enough to eat? Yes, we were. We were slaves in Egypt. We got out of the desert. And are we chayavim? Do we deserve it? Do we deserve to get out of Egypt? The perspective of the Birkat HaGomel is, not only am I thankful for what I have, but I also didn't deserve it. As Americans, we have a different perspective. They did a survey of most Americans. Most Americans think they're going to heaven. I sure hope most of us are. The Talmudic Jewish tradition is that Tzadikei Umot HaOlam, the righteous of any nation, will have a portion in the world to come. We'll have a portion in heaven. But should we feel that it's guaranteed? Should we feel that we deserve it? Should we feel that there's an entitlement that we should have this great American life that we lead? There's no entitlement. The perspective of the Birkat HaGomel, the perspective of one coming out of the desert, out of the sea, out of an illness, out of the Beit HaAsurim, out of the place of captivity, is that a person should say, not only am I thankful, but I remember that there's no entitlement program for having a good life. We don't deserve anything. God put us here on earth. Life is a gift. Health is a gift. Our well-being, our wealth is a gift. And in that sense, we not only are thankful, but thankful that despite our not deserving it, we have been given not only some good things, but many, many good things. If we ask, when did the Jews wake up? When did they gain perspective? It's an interesting thing. If we look at the Jews and we follow them in the desert, and we look at them getting out of Egypt, the Exodus itself, we don't find that they spoke up, that they reacted. They seemed to be in a daze. It was only on the seventh day, the end of Pesach, where the sea split. Then they opened their mouths, Az Yashir Moshe Uvenei Israel. Everyone opened their mouths and said an actual praise. It was that moment that they all woke up and gained perspective. Vayaminu Bashem, they had belief in God, Moshe Avdo, and Moses his servant. That's what Pesach is. To find our voice, to find the ability to go to that fourth cup where we have thanksgiving. So the question is, do we have perspective? Do we have that perspective that we're in a chain of history? That yes, maybe some things were better in the past than they are today. You know, the good old days. But it says in Kohelet, the wisest man of all, Solomon said, don't say how good it was in the olden days. Let's get a different perspective. Let's get the perspective of how bad it was in the olden days. Let's talk about the most derogatory aspect of our past. The slavery in Egypt, the paganism from which we all descend. Let's talk about the great poverty we experienced in our history, expulsions, Holocaust. And let's talk about the perspective of where we've come from there. That's perspective. But we're not just at the end point of history. We also have to gain perspective in terms of where we're going. L'shana haba'ah b'nei chorin. We begin and end the Haggadah by saying that we're in a continuum. We're in a continuum from the past going forward to the future. If we're not so happy with our station in life today, if we're not so happy because of the economic crisis, if we're not so happy because of personal crises which we face, we gain perspective and we say, L'shana haba'ah b'nei chorin. We're still looking forward to good times yet to come, collectively and individually as well. There can yet be good times coming our way as well. If we ask the question, why is the Manishtana the opening of the Haggadah? What is it about this Manishtana? Manishtana means that the children recognize the difference. That today is not the same as yesterday. Something is different. Something's worth thanking God for. Something has improved. If we went out of Egypt when we got out of our daze, our lack of perspective, we hope so too that in the future we'll look forward to a day when we'll truly gain perspective and see ourselves in a continuum of history, and we'll reach that final point of history where we will have the greatest perspective. We can look back at all of history and say, Even masu abonim, some didn't appreciate it then, but now it's l'rosh pinah. Now we've achieved great things.